Here we go. Oh, it's mirrored. Oh no, it's mirrored. It's this way. It's this way. This way is the way. Nuts! Hello, you look so good. Hi.
I just put my hand
Your food.
in my food. Oh my god, it's so good to see you. My lighting's
I am recording already. However, as we get started, I'm going to set a timer for myself to hold to it, but I also think it will help like direct so that I don't just wander for a bit, because the hope of this was like it was a hangout and not one of those hangouts where like they won't leave your apartment. So I will leave your
I
apartment.
don't want you to leave my apartment. It's the other way around. I'm not gonna leave yours. Oh, should I wear? I'll wear my sweats too. I'm gonna wear my sweats. I put on these sweatpants and now I'm like really hot.
Really warm. Please go change.
I have to go change again. I'm like drinking coffee and wearing this sweater and you're telling me these things and I'm like, yes, totally. And then simultaneously I'm like,
The backs of your knees and your butt is sweating. You're like,
I'll be back. I'm sorry.
Change, get comfortable. Also, your background is epic.
I just got the shelves and the desk because I'm back at work from home, like for real this time. And I had to, it was a shit show in here. My desk before was two small tables put together. One was round and this tall, and one was rectangle and this tall. I was just like, I can't. So yeah, I'm stoked. So
It looks so good. It looks like it's all blinking. It's I mean, it sounds so stupid. It's all blinking and stuff.
That's how I feel too. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna
Look great. You look great.
God, this is so. Don't you wish that lunch dates, like in general, you could just go into a room and change your pants?
Yes. You look great.
You look great.
You only see the top half of my body.
Top half of your body looks amazing.
The top half of my body looks.
You're always so vibrant, like always. Just like.
That's very generous of you.
It's real. Look at you.
What are you wearing right now? You're wearing some skinny jeans.
Some jeans.
Very nice. Very nice. Nice. Very nice.
Like, I was just like, I think I'm gonna show her my butt now.
Like anyone who has any aversions to food sounds is going to hate this interview series. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Home Lunch. This is a bite-sized interview series where I get to have virtual lunch dates with my friends. It's kind of a working hypothesis that I can get to know my people better, deeper by just chatting about common, ordinary, seemingly inconsequential details about our lives growing up. It's a hypothesis because it might just be me that loves this. But either way, we get to share a meal, and I really like food. And I like my friends, so it's good. It's good. Today, my virtual lunch date is with my friend and bandmate, Julia Mendiolea. I did it? Yeah? Yeah. Thank you for the voice memo. I was like, if I butcher this, I am not actually a good friend. She is a multi-instrument musician, a singer-songwriter, and she builds really cool shit for other musicians. I'll let her talk about that because it's a little over my head. I want to learn it, but it's a little over my head. And today we are sitting down over lunch, but it looks like both of us made our breakfasts. So you're going to be hearing some eating sounds. So just a heads up, any of you who are super bothered by that, this is not the interview for you. So would you start us off by telling us what you're eating?
Oh yeah,
What you make?
So I was like, I should make something that's special to me, and then I realized like I'm not a very good cook, And then I realized, well, I have been cooking one thing every day, and that has been breakfast. And since March, and it's always the same variation of what I've got going on here. I'll give you a tour of my plate.
Yes.
I guess.
I know, this is funny. Ooh, it's so pretty.
Thank you. So we have over here we have some toast. Sometimes it's waffles, but I ran out, so toast it is.
Toast.
And 2 eggs and 2 slices of manchego cheese and some kale with red pepper, which is terrible for a video interview. It's gonna get in my teeth. And then some orange slices.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I also went the breakfast route because it's hard to say this out loud, but I am not the greatest cook. Like, I have those things that I can cook, but the idea of preparing something really special for this started to stress me out because
Me too.
I don't have a ton of options. I'm like, I'm gonna have to start ordering in meals because I'm embarrassed. But I made French toast and I cut them while I was waiting. I was like that kid who just couldn't. I had to fiddle with it. I don't usually cut them like this, where they're in like French toast slices.
Like sticks.
They're like sticks. They're like dunking sticks. But that was unintentional. Oh no, talking my mouth full.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
I'm doing it too.
Good, great.
We warned everyone.
Some arugula with avocado and lemon and salt, and then I put my scrambled eggs on here. Ouch, that hurt my ears. And earlier when I was waiting for Julia to join, I was holding up pieces of the egg to the camera to see if it could focus on it. Like, oh, and it looks disgusting.
So alien.
It does. And then I
want to try.
Ate it.
I'm gonna definitely spill something on my computer.
Ooh, I can see the jam, the
butter and jam.
The waves. Ooh, this is a good question. Do you you seem to like to be able to see your butter.
I was wondering if that was gonna come up. Like, this is a lot of butter and everything.
No, I love butter. I just like it melted.
Yes. Oh, you know what? One of my favorite snacks has become like brie on like a cracker or something with preserves. And I realized, because like you run out of stuff, and like I'm trying to not go to the grocery store unless like I have to. And I was like, I don't have brie and blah blah butter, and then I realized I was like, Julia, just slather the butter on. It's basically brie. It's like on the spectrum of like cheese to butter, it's like here. Same. Anyway, that's gross.
No, that's not gross. It's maybe not like my preference. But honestly, like, if someone told me growing up, this is how you eat butter, I probably would have been like, yeah, that's how you eat butter. My dad had a treat that had it was bananas with mayo on top of it, and then crushed up walnuts.
Oh my god.
And it's actually really good, but I don't like seeing the mayo. Like, I like mayo on things, but if I
don't want to see like
if I like grab the sandwich and go and it like pops out, it doesn't do much for me. But the banana thing it's great. Okay, so here I'm gonna set the timer. This is mainly so that Hawaiian style, I don't talk your ear off or ask you questions for 3 hours, but feel free to eat. That's why we're here. We're just hanging out, lunch date.
I've never watched myself eat before.
I know. And feel free if you want to talk with your mouth full, if you want to talk and cover it, or if you're really like, this is too much, you can finish chewing and answer, and then I'll just edit out that part. That too, that's very real. Could you share a little bit more about what you do as it relates to your art and your craft?
Oh man.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. Yeah, this is something I've been as far as like defining it in a way that like you'd like put like on a business card or something. I'm thinking about this a lot lately. I look back, I'm 29. I look back on my 20s, and I'm just like very much jumping around from thing to thing all the time, but it's always in the realm of music.
Mhm.
So right now, currently, um, I'm a musician first and foremost, I guess.
You can say it.
Who am I?
You are. I know. And by the way, this is just my disclaimer. I'm asking this. I know, we know you are more than these titles. I'm just curious what
We all are, yeah.
where you've landed and what you call yourself.
Yeah, totally. I think musician is would just be the term that kind of covers everything.
Mhm.
Um, but my interests and the things I've been able to be involved in the last year or two have been everything from like a touring musician and then now to like someone who just sits here all day every day. And when I'm sitting here all day every day, what I'm doing is I work for a company called WMD, William Mathewson Devices, and we build modular synthesizers and pedals.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it's like it's nice to see the possibilities of like knobs and buttons, blinking lights, and so yeah, currently that's kind of been like my biggest focus. Earlier this year, when I didn't have as much to do, I was getting deep into songwriting, which I hadn't really had the time to do for a long time. So I've just been trying to cultivate this space to be a place where I can focus on my work and um, allow myself to be creative. And within that, this is all to say,
Mm.
uh, I realized I was like, dang, like I don't really know how to define myself in that way because it really just depends on what's going on. And
Mhm.
then I ended up realizing like how liberating that is
Yeah.
actually to not tie yourself to a situation
Mm.
or an opportunity, but to just think about who you want to be regardless of what is going on.
Yeah.
And so I've come to be like, okay, like I like to learn and I like to teach and I like to collaborate within
Mhm.
the realm of sound, and that is what I do. It's a really long answer. I'm so
No.
sorry.
Oh my gosh. I You're talking to me. You saying I'm sorry, that's a long answer. I mean, I had to give myself a timer.
I was just I
That
hate my
barrier is for me. That boundary is to guard you and yours time from my, yeah. I don't think anyone is a title or a thing or that's necessarily even a healthy goal, is just to figure out like what other people call you.
mm,
Much as I just want to know, like it was really powerful for me to get to a point where I could say I'm an feel silly. I'm an artist. Yeah. Well, I wanted to know like what you believe of yourself, but not but you're right, not get stuck in this rut of trying to figure out the title and forget everything else that is always evolving and making who you are.
I appreciate that you're not looking for a finite answer.
It's like
Because
the
then what would we talk about?
excavate stories that get you thinking about why you think and act and exist the way you do. And sometimes they're smaller pieces that come together later and make me go, oh, that makes so much sense. And sometimes they're really big, revelatory kind, where I'll be in the middle of sharing a story that seemed really just like a quick memory, and I might tear up and go, oh my goodness,
Mm.
I think I just landed on something that explains. Yeah, we're like, one moment.
You're like, hold, please.
Hold, please, I need to excuse myself.
That's so real though. And I love what you, I mean, I don't,
Do you love me?
I do. I love you. I do. I love you though. But those moments where you start to tear up as you're talking, isn't that always like the most, at least for me, I can't speak for you. So question. Whenever that happens to me, I'm like, oh, what I'm saying is true. And what I'm realizing is real. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the strongest compass towards like honesty with yourself is like when you're saying something and then you're like,
And I
I
think
laugh.
to add to, well, it adds to the tears too, because then I'm not just recollecting something that moved me, but like you said, that awareness that, man, whatever I'm speaking to right now is honest and true, and I know it in real time. Like I know this is real, and it's a relief, like that I can have clarity on something.
Totally.
It's clear. We're like, oh, that is a real thing about me. Like,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad that's there. Because everything else is fake. I'm just kidding.
No. I think part of it for me too, when that happens, it's also a realization that the person that I'm talking to, I feel so comfortable with. And it's like gratitude for that space to be like, oh dang, like I haven't been able to come to this realization by myself. You know?
And I've been talking to myself for a long time.
Oh yeah. that is real. That has been very real this year.
Ryan mentioned last night, I saw Ryan and Luz, that I had said something about like, yeah, when I go on walks, I'll talk to myself. Not like that's the only time I talk to myself. It's just another time that I talk to myself. And he brought up a good point, which is wearing masks now in public really help with the self-talk, because no one knows. I think.
Depends on how loud you talk.
I know, it's true. I'm like, no one knows. I'm just no. That's so funny. I feel so dumb. I'm tired.
I was just joking, but it is true.
It is absolutely true. I do not know how that slipped in my mind.
Well, because I mean, when I talk to myself in my apartment, I'll have to ask my neighbors, but I guess I don't really know. I don't think it's loud.
Yeah.
I laugh by myself though.
Yeah.
And I know that that's loud. I know my laugh is loud. And sometimes, can I tell you a secret?
Yes. Tell me a secret that I can record and put on YouTube.
Yeah, you can. You have my permission.
Okay.
Sometimes when I'm by myself in here, because I live in a house that's split up into apartments, right? So like, it's a house, but like we don't share any space except for the hallway and like the yard. And sometimes I'll be by myself and I'll have like a thought that I think is funny.
I'm tearing up.
And I'll just like laugh really loud, and then after the laugh leaves my mouth, I like kind of panic, and I'm like, oh my god, can they hear me? Did they just hear that I'm just like alone in here, like not having a conversation but just laughing? And then I don't do it, but I feel this urge, this is the secret, to pretend that I'm on the phone or something. Because I'm like I have to make it clear that this isn't weird. And then I'm like, so what are you gonna do? Make it weirder and pretend to be on the phone just in case? Like what?
There's no judgment. I can't even tell you how many times I've pretended to be on the phone. And
I want to know.
And it's a bad idea. You're right. It is a bad long-term plan, because then you have to keep it up.
Yeah. My biggest fear is that I'll be doing that. I'll be like walking on the street, like talking, and then my phone will ring.
And you're like, oh, must have dropped the call. What is it? Hello? Babe, I just lost the call. We were talking for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, totally.
I think it would be very entertaining, especially during these times where we're all probably spending a little too much time thinking about our neighbors in an unhelpful way. Like, not like consider your neighbor, like what does your neighbor need, but more like, I wonder if my neighbor is feeling.
You are so right.
Wait, I have like a whole storyline for my immediate neighbors, and I feel embarrassed about it because it's kind of one of my pet peeves is nosy neighbors, and not like involved neighbors, because I grew up in communities where like you knew your neighbors. There's a difference between you share the block to this. What is that? You're like, what are you doing? Why are you peeking like that? You want to know about like, yeah. Anyways, I have some storylines, and it makes me feel very petty, but not but. And during these COVID times, I'm not gonna lie, it has helped bring levity to my walks, to look at the house and be like, I bet blah 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 is doing blah blah blah. I don't know what you called home lunches growing up. So a home lunch would be like a sack lunch, lunch from home.
Cold lunch, yeah, cold lunch.
Cold lunch. What was your favorite, or what would be a dream home lunch to have been given packed when you were younger, elementary school?
What would I have thought was the dream then, or what would I consider the dream now?
Ooh, then, because they're very different for me too.
This is one of those things where it's a small detail, but it is a huge part of who I am. So, growing up, I grew up in a small town in Wyoming, and there was like a Hispanic community, but like in general, like I was like maybe the only one of like a few brown people in my class. And I was a hot lunch kid. I had like the lunch tickets for like the hot lunch at school, chicken patties. But
Ooh.
dude, I remember as a kid just wanting a Lunchable so bad. I was like, these kids don't know how freaking lucky they are to get this like and I look back on it now and I'm like, but to get like this tray of like little deli meats and cheese, and it comes with like a Capri Sun.
Yes. Yes.
A Capri Sun and like an Oreo or like a Kit Kat bar, and it was just like such an American thing. And as a first generation child, I don't think anyone had any idea. I don't think I had any idea how fascinated I was by these like ordinary things like a Lunchables, but I was just like, oh my god. And I remember thinking like if I had a Lunchables, like I would fit in. Like yeah, like a Lunchable would be my ticket to not being different. Which
I'm only laughing. That's absolutely mine.
So real.
There's like the local style, but it had to be like a plate lunch type thing or a Lunchable. And I would ask all the time, could I maybe have a Lunchable? And we'd go to Oka supermarket and I'd see all the Lunchables out, and there's like the 4-pack one and there's those bigger ones.
The big one. And then there's the pizza one.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, it's just really cool. And everyone gets them. Everyone. And then as an adult, you're like, they're kind of not yummy. They're kind of gross. The meat is sweaty.
The one is weird. It's just like cold. It's like a squishy pita bread-ish thing.
It's like a very it's a weak sauce charcuterie board. And that's giving it too much too, even like there wasn't enough flavor or salt. As an adult, that's why it's so weird to see that contrast, because
yeah, that's why I asked like then or now, because very different. Because now my dream lunch would be what my mom was making me. My dream lunch now is like, man, she made the best like little sandwiches. She would mix the mayo and the mustard together to create like a mayo mustard sauce. Yeah. And then like I was in ballet growing up, and ballet takes over your whole life. So I spent most of my time like at like Nutcracker practice, and we would have like our lunches from home, you know, and same thing. I would look around and like, dude, there were kids that like every day they got Subway, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, your parents get you Subway every day? Yeah. I was like, my mom makes me lunch. And like, what a turd I was, dude. Like, honestly, like it actually makes me emotional. And like think about that. I'm like, dude, my mom is the best in the whole world. She'd make me a lunch every day. And it was always really healthy. And I remember like being like such a turd about it. I was like, ugh, you gave me an orange instead of like whatever bullshit snack everyone else was eating.
Dipsticks? No. What are the ones where you would lick it and you'd put it in the packet of like Fun Dip?
Like kind of like baby bottle pop, but not.
Yes. Yes. Like your parents were, it sounds like your mom was legitimately looking after your needs. And I'm always
like,
curious.
What is she going to need today?
Yes. Oh, she might need some fruit, some veggies. Make sure she gets a yummy sandwich. And you're like, oh, this is trash. I know, now you make your meals based off of it. I don't think I ever said like it was, I would imagine what I know of you as an adult. I was pretty sensitive as a kid, so I think you were too. I would have never said like, oh, this is gross. But I now as an adult, and my relationship with like my nephews and nieces and younger, and like watching, like even when they try to mask their disappointment, you know, And I'm not silly. I see what others have. So even if I don't think that what others are giving my nephews and nieces at their age, even if I don't think that they need that, I understand the narratives because I felt it too with like Lunchables so strongly. Like, what is their Lunchables? And are they disappointed? And then that makes me feel so sad. And I think about how my mom and dad, how they must have felt when they showed up and like brought like team lunches for like after basketball games and stuff like that. And it wasn't the Subways or
Right.
McDonald's Happy Meals for everyone. It was
Yeah,
like, here's your
totally.
bag with your sandwich and here's your apple. And I'd be like, thank you, Mom. But I'm sure she could tell I was
Dude,
disappointed. And that makes me sad because I
it's so
no
every
disappointment.
I know it's such a deep pain, and it's something that like I think that when I worry, this is getting so real, it's so fast. When I worry about my parents, and like I think my biggest fear is that my parents will never know how much I appreciate them and see them and love them.
Yeah.
And I recognize it's because when I was a kid, I was like so subconsciously like had no idea. I had no idea, but I was just trying to assimilate into the world that I was like experiencing in school so much
Mhm.
because it's natural and it's
Mhm.
human, and that's where I have to like forgive myself a little bit because like I was 7. It's a lot of pressure to like for me to put on 7-year-old me of like, why didn't you understand what was happening in your brain? Like there was just so much going on that like I'm just barely now starting to understand. And so yeah, my biggest fear is that they will think that whatever reaction I had to my
Mm,
thoughtful, healthy cold lunch is how I feel about them. Because
yes.
it's freaking not. It's not. And more and more every day. And if I ever have kids, I am absolutely going to be putting like, I'm going to be like, dude, so this orange, like the way you and I were excited about this earlier, like this orange is actually half grapefruit, half orange. And they're going to be like,
Delicious.
oh, and I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to love it. And then I'll see that they're like not excited. And I'll be like, well, you're going to eat it anyway because it's good.
I know.
Little shit. If I'm understanding you correctly, like you resonate with like the root of it isn't like pure like I'm not grateful or whatever. Like there's something going on there.
Something, yeah.
The way that we were like, why can't I have a Lunchables? And
Yeah.
like you said, I as far as I know,
Yeah.
I was never outwardly. I didn't complain about it.
Yeah.
It was like a sad, like longing that I quietly carried of like at the store, like only get that disgusting pizza. Because it's a symbol for something else.
Exactly.
I didn't actually think that it tasted good. I was seeing it on TV as like, this is what you eat if you're a cool kid that's a part of this like world. And I was like, I want to be part of the world.
I
You
love
know?
Twitch because it's absolutely that. Like, would that get me in?
Yeah, I'm like,
It
this
too. Yes, it tastes good. Mm.
yeah,
You
like
can
this
convince yourself that it tastes
cold, like meat, like this weird.
chewy in a weird way.
What?
But don't get me wrong, there are definitely times by me saying that whole thing about my niece, it's definitely not, oh, I've never felt the
Mm-hmm.
need to be like, hold up, you're gonna eat that flippin' meal now. Why? Because we made it for you.
Because we made it for
And it's
you.
good. And it's good.
It's good for
And
you.
you should eat it and not be ungrateful. So I'm definitely not like, oh, I get it. I understand all the ways. Like,
It's just
or I'm gonna give you 5 options. I'm like, no, you have 2 options.
like...
You can eat this or not eat.
Listen, I would eat the meal that you're eating right now.
I would eat the meal you're eating.
When I was making this, I was like, it felt weird to know that I was going to see somebody
Mm-hmm.
and cook, but only be cooking for myself. I was like,
Cool. Here we go. Tell me real quick about your best or favorite, I don't know what the right word would be for it, but childhood friend. Who's a standout friend when you were younger? Even if it was just for a season.
whoa. Sorry, I just like went into like a whole 30-second silence.
Take your time. I can edit this.
Well, it's interesting because the person that I thought of immediately is actually one of the only friends from my childhood that I just have totally lost contact with. Like, I'm sure if I were to reach out to her like on Instagram or whatever, she'd be like, "Oh, what's up?" I think. I guess I don't know.
So
Because I have childhood friends that like I'm still close with now, but for some reason, her name was Angela Chambers, and dude, our friendship was so cool. Like, we met in kindergarten, at my sister's band concert. My sister was in 6th grade when I was in kindergarten, and Angela's dad was the middle school band teacher. And dude, I remember this band concert. It was like at this old school that they actually ended up tearing down. It was like this old auditorium that had like a balcony. And I was sitting on the balcony with my parents, and I was like really shy, just like very like quiet, like didn't talk unless someone
Did you do
talked
that
to me.
face again?
What was that?
Did you do that face again?
What face? That's how I feel all the time. That's who I am in here whenever I'm doing anything. I'm just like
That's how I feel when we're at shows.
yeah, exactly.
They're gonna boo me. Hey, what's up? Sorry, keep going. Chambers, keep going. Bangkok.
Yeah, dude. And she was so like extroverted and just like full of like so much energy. And she was sitting behind me and she was just joking around. She was just like, I don't know. It was like the first time that I think I felt like, whoa, like this person really wants to be my friend. And it like blew my mind. And also it was like the first show I think I'd ever seen, which is hilarious because it was like a bunch of 6th graders playing their band concert. But I like to hear
Yeah.
so many humans creating sound that at the time sounded very cohesive. I don't know what it would sound like to my ears now, but at the time I was like, this is the coolest thing. And after that, yeah, dude, we were like best friends at school, went to the same elementary school, and we would like, she like really brought me out of my shell, dude. We would, this was 1998, 1999. So Spice Girls were a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And we would play, my favorite games at recess were playing Titanic and playing Spice Girls.
How would you play Titanic?
Oh, this is where it gets weird. Your laugh was so good. You're like,
Like,
tell
me about it.
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But Angela Chambers and I would wear sunglasses and we would run around the playground and be Spice Girls. And yeah, I just felt like she super accepted who I was. And like, she was one of those friends where amidst all of my like Lunchables anxiety, I didn't feel like she thought my family was weird. You know? And yeah, the Titanic thing, man. So along with those friends, we had 2 friends, Andy and Zach. We were like we were all friends or whatever, and we would play Titanic. And I think that like maybe Zach was like my first boyfriend or something, kind of, but we didn't call it that. He just told me that he was in love with me in line for lunch one day. But he would be Jack and I would be Rose. And we would do that, and this is my big confession. I recall specifically this is so disturbing.
I did.
I recall like lying in like the sand and him drawing me in the sand.
You're like, this is like my childhood version of a porno. Draw
Yeah, it really brought me out of my shell.
Draw me. What was his name? Andy?
Oh, that was Zach.
Oh, draw me, Zach. Draw me like one of your babes. That's so wonderful. It's so, see, these are such treasures to me. I don't know how to weave all of them together. I'm not claiming that we share. I'm like, oh, now I know everything about you. But it's such an interesting thing to become. Sounds so lame. It's such an interesting thing.
No, stop.
It is fascinating to me that we can meet each other as adults and connect with folks and give so much of our lives to each other or do work alongside each other that's very intimate, and to have not known the years upon years upon years and people that have
Oh my God.
been doing life with you beforehand. And it's this strange thing of like some of my adult made friends know me so dearly and probably most accurately now.
Mhm.
But as they learn me, it's like I need them to also know these other parts of me, because they are and were just as true, and some have higher stakes in making me who I am or I'm not, and some not so much. Some are just like little missing pieces that when you learn it about someone, you're like, ooh,
It like it like comes to light. You're like, oh my
yes. It's like it gets clearer. Like people become clear, because that moment I met you is not when you began. Not that I
God.
thought that, but there sometimes I think that when we meet each other, like, oh, and now Julia is like a person and she's on my radar. Now I know. It's like, but I'm like, you've had so much life beforehand and so many people. How could I ever? Yeah. So these are really, that is such a good story.
When someone shares a story from their childhood, I'm just like, oh, it's like, yes, I feel like super.
Mhm.
Oh my God. You know, I remember sitting in the back of the van with Allie once, and we were just like talking about how we both played saxophone in band. And it was like, to me, at least to me, it seemed like to both of us, but at least for me, I was like, oh my God, we're so connected now. It was just like, because when we were 14, we were like,
It's not
like
that
this.
what you did. It's like you remember all the feelings that led up to you having the courage to go and try it, or what it was like being like a woman in that position, or other instruments and what people thought you should play, whether or not you thought you were good, lugging it around.
Lugging it around. Oh my God.
How many kids like forget it on the bus, and you'd be like, you forgot your French horn, and they're like, what? You're like holding it out the window, like you forgot your instrument, you dum dum.
Oh my God, that's so real. Forgetting your saxophone on the bus, you're like, oh my God.
You just bound off, and you get home, you're like,
I still did it. My saxophone. Do you want to know where my saxophone is right now? That same saxophone.
here in your apartment, in your house. Oh,
It's at my ex-boyfriend's house because I forgot it when we broke up, and it's that same. I'm like, oh, I love my saxophone. I'm like, we're cool. I'm sure I could just go over and get it. But I'm just so embarrassed that I forgot a saxophone.
that could be
Like
really
most people are like,
fun.
oh yeah, I left like my jacket at his house or whatever, and I'm like, my alto saxophone is at your house.
This is so much about you, that like of all the things people forgot, they're like, what'd you forget? Oh, my saxophone. I just casually
I also feel bad for my saxophone. Like its name was Louis. Like,
I think it's very intriguing to see if the school you went to had a band program, like what instruments people chose. And I'm so curious, like what influenced people to start certain things, because I'm pretty sure I wanted to do the trombone, but I think it's because I was like very strong into like, this sounds so silly, my tomboy stage. And a handful of the boys were playing the cornet or the trombone, and I didn't want to seem, this is so funny, like what I thought it symbolized. I'm like, I can't play like the clarinet or the flute, that's delicate.
dude, no, this is so real.
Okay, so it's like trombone, for sure, trombone. They're like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, of course, like it's what I want. I'm like, I don't know what I wanted. I was figuring it out.
Lunchables. It's a. There's so much more going on.
Trombone, Lunchables, eventually landed in percussion, which I really did love, but probably was inspired by the idea of like, I don't see many girls there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where I would fit. But again, not that there wasn't enjoyment trying out those other instruments, but now in hindsight, I'm like, I wonder how many things I chose because I genuinely liked them. Or was it just because I was trying to figure out how it positioned me to other people or what it said about me? Oh, that French toast got caught in my windpipe.
Is it the front for you? Okay, no.
Oh, you don't need to eat too fast. It's tight right here. Yeah. Can't even look at the camera. I'm so embarrassed.
No.
Mm,
Oh my god, what is that? I thought you were drinking salt. It looks like the
like,
salt.
oh, it makes me feel better when I just drink salt.
Is that is that
Yeah,
a
it's
Oh. I was like, are you drinking
I'm from Hawaii. We drink salt. It is like what the people do. No, it's
salt?
totally water. I promise. Here, I have some more questions. Of all the rules your parents created growing up, which one to you was the most stupid?
Hmm. Oh, there were so many rules too. But in hindsight, they were smart.
I know. Wait, or
Smart rules.
you're right. Maybe it's like which driving me nuts. One sec. Left to right, right. It's getting
It's great.
um
Oh yeah, it's backwards. Because I'm not mirrored. I see what you're saying.
my brain.
Isn't it weird how hard that actually is?
It's
Wait,
almost impossible for me to figure out right now.
wait, if you put up your right hand, does it look like a mirror? Does it look like you're talking to a different you?
It's it's a different me.
So is mine, but I changed it a long time ago. I think I
Sure.
got
You got used to it.
kind of.
I'm
No, it's hard.
my brain. Sorry.
With things
Because
specifically.
I couldn't. I was telling myself to move it here, and then I would do the opposite.
Dude, yeah, it's really hard. Oh my god.
I could not figure it out, and my like literally all my brain. What was going on in my brain was like maybe shoot yourself back to younger years because you're right. Perspective is everything. So now the rules
Yeah, now it's like, God, those were smart.
and they're brilliant. But when you were younger, what's a rule that they made that
But
you?
I was just like, what the heck? Let me sift through the many rules.
I know.
This was my favorite. My mom, she would like if I was say like I was like in high school, like ninth or 10th grade,
Okay.
and I had like girlfriends that were older that drove, right?
Yes.
Because driving with a boy, like, did I do it? Yes. Was
You're
it
like, "Did I do
allowed?
it?"
No. Yes. I'm sure she knows. So if she ever watches this, like,
Sorry, mom.
her thing was like, you have to get home when it gets dark.
Mm.
And it wasn't like, what time is it? It wasn't like you have a curfew. It was like, when it gets dark, it's time to come home. And in the winter, it gets dark at like 5, yo. So it's like, it's dark, time to come home. And I'd be like, I just got out of school. Like, what?
Sorry.
And the whole thing was like, it was in Spanish, and it's a phrase that means a different thing than what was actually happening in my small town in Wyoming, where she would say like, no andes en la calle en la noche, like don't be on the street at night. But like I was like at like my friend's house,
Yeah.
and they were like making like lasagna,
Mhm.
and like we were just chilling in their couch next to like the exercise machine. We weren't like on the street, like there wasn't even
Yeah.
like a street
That
to
could
go
be
hang out.
equivalent. Yeah.
No, there wasn't like a downtown, or like we were either at someone's house, which was someone's parents' house, obviously, or like driving around in someone's car within the like, 2-mile radius that was the town.
Just circles.
She would call, and it'd be like, like say it's like winter time at like 8:30. She'd be like, Mika, get home right now. It's so late. It's been dark for hours. And I'd be like, oh, I'm like, it's winter time. Now that I'm like quarantined at home or whatever, and it's winter time, I'm like, yeah, 9 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, man, it's so late. And I imagine like, I guess if I had a kid and like I was at home and it's been dark for hours, like I do get it, but that's one that I'm still like, I don't know how necessary that was.
I do like that it wasn't a time.
It wasn't a time.
Easy to me to be like, just when it's dark. Even if it wasn't a cultural, familial difference, it's funny to me to think that your mom was just messing with you. I don't think that was the case, but for her to be like, You have to be home when it's dark. You're like, yeah, but like what time, Mama? And you're like, when it's dark.
It's like when the sun goes down.
When you see it going down, you should be hustling home. You're like, but then you become that kid that's like, oh my gosh, it's dark.
Yeah, totally. I mean, she's right. Like the stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, for some reason, it's easier to
Do it in the dark.
when it's dark out. Like she's not wrong. So my mom, she has 13 siblings, half like 7 brothers and 6 sisters, and then her, so 14 total. And they grew up in Matamoros, Mexico. And so most of my family, like on my mom's side of the family, they live either in Matamoros or in Brownsville, which is like the town. They're both border towns. And so I didn't grow up with them. I didn't grow up with like my tias around or anybody. It was just like me and like my sister and my mom and dad like in Wyoming, and then like everyone else. And so as adults, you know, we go down there in the summer or whatever, and my cousin Dalia is getting married, and she's like, I don't know how old she was when she got married. I think she was like 30, like maybe early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of the primas go out for like the bachelorette party, and it was just like, it was so chill. Like we went to like a karaoke bar, and like there was like drinking, which was like a big deal, because we're like, whoa, we've never seen each other drink before, because we're always just like at our relative's house and everyone's like being like really good, you know. And but still, even then, it's like it wasn't wild, like it wasn't crazy. And all of a sudden it's like 10:30, and like maybe 11, all of our cell phones start ringing, and we're like, what's going on? And everyone's mom was calling them to come home because it was late. And I was the youngest person there, and I was 19. Everyone else was in their like mid to late 20s. And everyone's mom, Dalia was getting married the next day, and she's like in her early 30s, and it's her bachelorette party, and her mom is like, Dalia, regresa a la casa. It's late. It's like 10:30. What are you doing? You know? And it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God.
Was there a feeling of like did something click when you watched all your cousins have the same experience?
I think it all, yes, like I think it clicked for everyone. We were all just, because normally like what I'm used to, and I don't know for them, I don't know how much they hung out like as they were teenagers. I'm not really sure. But I know that for me, like I was the only one in my circle of friends that was like, that had that kind of rule, you know. And it just felt like, so I was like, I am so different, like, oh my God. And to be in a situation where my mom's calling me, but then everyone else same thing, I'm like, oh my God, like this isn't weird right now, like you get it. And we were all just laughing. We were just like, oh my gosh, like has this been happening the whole time? Like, oh,
like this is not an isolated instance, like this is our family.
This is our family. Well, what was it like when our moms were younger? Because they had they had 7 brothers out with them all the time. Like, I mean, I don't know what it was like on the day-to-day, but like definitely like you weren't just like going out alone. So I can't imagine what it would be like to grow up with 13 siblings in an environment where like you always have your family like watching your back when you're out in your like social world. Then just send your daughter by herself out with people that you don't know, like that must have been really scary. And like, now I understand. I'm like, oh man, yeah, like I didn't have a bunch of brothers making sure that like no one was gonna, you know, do something shitty to me, like me out there all naive and stuff.
Your smaller family unit is such a is so tiny compared to your mother's experience, where maybe those things didn't have to be spoken because they were just assumed and that you were part of a pack. So to be in Wyoming, far from the pack. It makes sense. Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense in that you're like, Mom, if it's 5 o'clock, I'm not in danger because the sun's down, but it makes sense that she would see you as alone. And like, I'm not with you. I can't, there's no one to look after your interests or our interests for you except for yourself. So it's dark, come home.
So just come back.
You've wandered a little too far from home. Ooh, so we didn't really talk a whole lot about this specifically, but we met through music, in music, and currently are not playing anything because COVID. Ooh, did you hear something?
There was like a, it sounded like an explosion.
Do you want to check it? This way. Okay. So Julia and I met uh, as we came together to be a part of Ila Bamba. And I can't remember. Do you remember the first time we met? This is not my question. This is just me wandering in my storytelling.
I am not 100% positive, but I am 99% sure that it was at the studio, at Ryan's studio for a rehearsal.
Yes.
And I think Ed was there because I think it was the night that do you remember that picture where we
place things, yes.
We came up with Guitar Leg?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the day we met, was the day of Guitar Leg, which says a lot and it's really beautiful.
Hi, nice to meet you. Would you like to strum my leg? We can't be friends.
I would be honored. Like that's how it felt.
Give me your leg.
You just strum your leg. I would.
You're so much more flexible than me. I was like,
yeah, this is weird.
No, that's as far as it goes. Oh no.
Oh hi, yes, welcome to the dinner table.
Welcome to the dinner table. What are you eating? That is where we first met, and I remember you had longer hair.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember. Did you bring some of your gear?
I brought way too much.
Like all stuff that doesn't like super matter to what I'm about to ask.
I brought way too much stuff because I was nervous. I was like, well, I don't know what sounds they want, so I'm just gonna bring like all my pedals. And then I was like, what the fuck? Like I brought like a giant thing that had.
I love it.
Who brought his giant suitcase, and everyone was like, what the fuck? Like we have to put this in the van. I'm still so embarrassed about that.
No. Okay. I
was nervous. I was like, I have to make sure I have the right sounds.
But that's so fair, because if y'all don't know much about the band like shape, half of the members don't, like, everyone lives in a different place. So coming together, most of the times where we would come, the only times we would come together were to rehearse, like the day before playing a show or leaving. So I mean, I'm like this even if these weren't the terms of the band, but I just don't want anyone to be inconvenienced by me not having what I need to take care of my stuff. So exactly. Whether it's like instruments, gear, clothes. I just, since I was a kid, this battle between like, I don't want to be an inconvenience by being the one who packs too much, where they're like, come on, Bo. But I also don't want to be in the middle of a rehearsal or on the road where someone's like, hey, did you bring this? I'm like, yep, I have 3 different versions.
Exactly.
I'm like, taking care, you don't have to make any stops. Good. Like, get the, like, I don't think I ever registered that you brought too much. I was just like, wow, that's so cool. No!
It was like this giant case. Yeah, and it's so funny because I was like, in my brain, I was like, I don't want to be an inconvenience. And I was like, but let me bring this giant box that we have to fit into a van every night, even though like I'm literally just like like what?
You're fighting between that. You don't want to have to ask these new people for gear. Like, if you this sound, you're like, I don't know anyone. I'm just gonna bring everything I need. And I think I remember you having. I do this too with my pedals. I'll use my clothes as like padding. So when you I just remember you opening a bag or a box, and there was like a shimmery shirt. And I was like, ooh. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, are we supposed to get shimmery?
Oh my god.
I was like, oh, I didn't bring shimmery stuff.
It just said gold, and I didn't know what that meant.
I was like, okay, everything gold. And in my mind, I'm like, oh no, I have yellow.
Yeah, dude, totally.
Like, I have mustard yellow, which is not what we were going for. Here's the question. Do you get stage fright? And if you do, how does that manifest, and what in the hell do you do to counter?
I definitely get stage fright. I like wonder, I'm like, are there people that just don't? Like at this point, I'm like, who are the people that don't? And like, are they okay? Oh, I have food.
Oh, I didn't see. Where?
It's
It's
gone
just on
again.
your lip. Ooh, that was really sexy, dude.
Dude, no, it was so, I was
Like,
like,
sorry, guys, I have food on my lip.
excuse me.
That just makes side note.
Not mean to
No,
do that.
worst first date thing to be like, excuse me, do I have food on my lips? It's gross. I can't even watch myself do it. Oh, I licked so much.
I like that this is as we're talking about stage fright and I just have like food hanging out of my mouth.
Like, sometimes I am.
Okay, but to answer your question, do
Yes.
I get stage fright?
Yes.
Super get stage fright. It's gotten better, and by better, it's just that there are methods. When I want to just to like set up the how far I have come, I went to school. I went to college for music, and I did guitar performance. And like, what a terrifying! Honestly, I'm like, could I even do this now? Like every week on Fridays, there was this thing called general recital, and you had to you didn't have to do it every week, but every week it happened, and
Yes.
you would play in front of the whole student body of the music department, like whatever you were working on in your private lessons. And I hadn't ever had like guitar lessons post like a couple from middle school that were like for open chords and stuff. So it was all very new for me, and I was also the only woman out of like 80 dudes my first year. And so it just felt like so much pressure because people were always like, oh, like you must be so good because you're the only girl. And I'm like, I don't know how that metric works in your brain, but like it's like so much pressure. And my hands would shake so bad that like I just straight up like couldn't play sometimes. And if I was playing with other people, it was okay. But if it was like solo guitar, it was just like, oh my God, like just the worst. And I think the only way I got past that in general was like I started playing bass. Like I had a friend. I actually, this is crazy. Um this turned around, so Andy Sito.
Yeah, I was just saying, is this Andy?
Andy Sito like wrote a jazz composition, and he was like, do you want to play guitar with me? And I was like, okay. And it was the first time that I played general recital and like felt like kind of comfy because it was my friend and I got to write my own part. And then my friend James, who was a drummer, like watched us play, and he's like, hey, do you want to play bass in this band that I'm starting with my friend Maria? And I didn't play bass, but I like really wanted to be in a band more than anything. So I was like, yeah. And I like got this like cheap bass that is still my bass now. And when we would play shows, I was so excited. And honestly, dude, I really think it was like a physical thing because the frets were bigger and the strings were bigger. My hands shaking didn't matter as much. It's like so crazy. And knowing that I could like get through it, and it was just like doing that over years, but then still like I still get so nervous. And it's always, does this happen to you where it's like it's always the worst right before and like maybe the first song, and then after that it's like mostly fun?
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
It's mostly not terrifying.
Mostly not terror, because some of the terror, that's kind of a strong word. There's probably a better word for it, but some of it is the fire that makes it exciting.
Totally.
It's something because it's the stakes, it's important to you.
Like it's like saying I love you, where you're like, oh my God, I'm so scared because this matters to me and I feel really vulnerable.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But then you just like speak your truth and it just feels good regardless of the outcome.
Yes.
You know? And it feels even better if it's like well received, of course. But like
Yes.
I think that that's kind of been the crux of it, is just like remembering why I do it and like what my purpose is, where it's like, oh, I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to show up in the best way I can for this scenario. Like with Ila Bamba, like the way I see it is like my job is to like lift loose up and like we all lift each other up, and to just be part of the story that's being shared. And easier for me to say because I'm not like, you know, it's not my project, so I don't carry the weight of that, and one day I will find out what that feels like. but yeah, I think just like really just remembering like why I'm there, because when you feel fear and you have that feeling of like I want to run away,
Yes.
um it can just super separate you from that. This is so gross.
I had mine. Look, I had it in my fist, and I looked over and I saw this little
You're
thing peeking out. I'm like,
like but yeah, when you have that fear response and like you want to run away, it's just so important to be like, I don't actually run away. I actually really want to be here.
yes, yes.
I'm scared, like you're saying, because this matters to me.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then also just like laughing at myself has been so helpful. I think that I'm a perfectionist and I'm so scared of doing something wrong or like not doing a good job. But the truth is that like you're not going to do everything perfectly all the time, and like learning how to laugh at my mistakes both in music and outside of music has been the most important thing I think I've learned in the last like 4 years. Is just
Yeah.
like, because when I see someone that I look up to make a mistake,
Mhm.
it doesn't make me think less of them. It makes me think more of them. I'm like, oh my God, you're real. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like watching Johnny Greenwood like fuck up a song at a Radiohead concert. And then he fucked up this song. I think it was like Weird Fishes or whatever. And this was in Portland actually, like years
Really?
ago. And I was like, the intro started and he's like, and I was like, oh my God, awesome. And he like super messed up. And then I saw him laugh, hug his guitar, and then just keep playing. And I was like, oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
You can, okay, you can play a stadium and like super mess up and then just like laugh and like hug your instrument and keep going. Like that's
Mhm.
pretty cool. Anyway, that's my really long answer. I'm so
No,
sorry.
I love that. What is it about knowing that others are, especially those that we've elevated because they have a specific skill that they've honed or they've lived really an admirable way? Like, what is it about seeing their imperfection that is so important for us, and then for us to emulate it? And because I feel that, I'm like, I guess I'm just trying to identify why it's so important, but I feel that too. And I think that fear of not being perfect in my experience so far, maybe I'll laugh at myself 20 years from now. I'll be like, oh, child, you had no clue. But so far, this this insistence upon perfection, which I don't even know how to define in
Right.
every category of my life, like
Yeah.
even the areas that are very mechanical, where things are like formulaic, even those things eventually feel like there's a certain degree of like subjectivity to what is perfect.
Like
Um,
the Lunchables. Or
the
like
Lunchables, it's like,
it
it's
was
a
like that was the standard. And I was like, I am so anxious because I don't have this thing. And like now I'm like, dude,
perfect.
you need that thing. Like
You didn't need it, and now you're like, and I don't even want it. I don't
I
even like
don't want
hunger
it.
for that. It tastes,
Yeah.
oh, it looks yucky. Like, why
Right.
the standard?
It's so real.
Like, oh. But I think like the more I learn that that's not that, oh, that the pursuit of perfection is a joy kill, it's a creativity kill,
Mm,
and that it is even a killer when it comes to me actually moving towards perfecting something. Not that I'll ever like I arrive, but like the insistence upon perfection, whether it be like relationally, musically, in your in the technical knobs and buttons that I'm pointing to behind you. Like, I'm not saying that there are categories of our lives where precision is much more important because the stakes are higher. Like if someone's operating on my brain and they're like,
yeah, like
whatever, I'll just
I laughed at my mistake.
Thunk. I'm like, no, certain things require precision in that capacity, but more things than not, to insist upon perfection and to hold myself or others to it, it does kill my joy. It kills any creativity that would help me
Get
grow
to
or
where you want to
create
be.
or get to the whatever standard I'd elevated that person to.
Yeah.
So I think when I see others who I admire that are further down the road, or even this like lateral of me,
Yeah.
to see them treat themselves like, what's his name, hugging his guitar and laughing.
Yeah.
It is such a, I feel like it's like that person bring you in and be like, come on, like,
Yeah, dude.
like take a
Exactly.
deep breath. If this isn't good and nourishing you in a way where you can laugh at it, then what the hell are you doing this?
Why are we here?
Like,
Totally.
there's not actually that much life. So why are you spending it on this thing that is not bringing you a certain degree of joy? Not that it's easy all the time. It's not like, oh, if it's not easy, I don't do it. It's like, no, but if it isn't at its core regenerating something in you, then I think we might be pretending that it's important to us, but maybe it's just a Lunchable.
Maybe it's just a Lunchable.
But if it's all just fucking Lunchable, you start like calling people up, you're like, I think you might be a Lunchable. Just kidding.
You're a Lunchable in my life? Okay, I'm realizing I don't actually want this.
Want this.
So brutal.
It's just certain.
Lunchable.
I know that's the worst, is when you think it's a strong burn, but
Yeah, because it means something to you.
like, you know what I mean? Pre-packaged Lunchable.
Sliced up deli meat. Gross. Oh my god. No, but I agree with what you're saying. It like, and when you said like the, you know, if it is it regenerative.
I did say,
Right.
and now I'm nervous that wasn't the right word.
I think it's a. Is that what you said?
I did say
It
regenerative.
sounded right to me, so I'm just gonna go with it. When I said it, it felt weird.
You're like,
Anyway,
so many syllables.
I'm
Regenerative.
I'm sorry, was this not perfect? But no, I'm also realizing more and more that like this is like the new mantra of like, it's I don't want to be perfect. I want to be intentional.
Yes.
Because if you're intentional, then like you're connecting like what you're really trying to do, manifesting that. Perfect has so many vague standards.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the difference, right? It's like if you're trying to be perfect at something, like whose standards are you meeting? Are they yours? Are they your imagined expectations from someone else? That's my favorite thing to do, is to assume that other people are expecting certain things of me.
That is also my favorite.
When I say favorite, I don't mean favorite, I mean common. It's my least favorite thing.
I spend a lot of time thinking about what other people are thinking about.
I just love to sit there and but when I'm striving for perfection, it's the root of what I'm doing is so different than when I'm striving to do something intentionally.
Yeah.
Because if I'm trying to be intentional, then it is in alignment with my truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been the biggest thing. And also just like, I don't know, why did it feel so good to laugh at yourself sometimes? At least for me, I don't know. Like it feels so good to be like, some of my favorite things, some of my favorite memories are moments where you're like, oh,
yes,
I can't believe we just did that. Like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh. It kind of makes me think of what you mentioned at the very start of our meal about when you say something, when you have like a revelation of sorts, epiphany about how you feel about something while you're telling a story, like you're just reminiscing about something from childhood. Seems pretty common, or like just an everyday memory, and it hits you somewhere and you realize how I'm feeling about this and what I'm saying about it are really honest. And I think when you laugh at yourself genuinely, not in a
Oh my god,
deprecating just to like avoid, but that really like, my bad, and like the chuckles is just, it just feels like you're seeing yourself clearly. Like a lot, the stuff, the masks,
oh my god.
whatever you were posturing beforehand for whatever reason, fair or unfair, it gets like destroyed, and you go, yeah, that was really, really messed up.
I did that. Yeah, I brought like 20 petals to
Definitely the reaction time between the feeling felt and then working my way back to that grounding place of like, but why am I doing this? How do I feel about remaining in this, does this, has this destroyed me, or does this take away from who I am? And then I go, you work through, and you're like, no, it's not this, it's not that. And you're like, okay, well then laugh at yourself, or say
Yeah.
you're sorry, or
Or
cry a
say,
little
oh
bit,
my God.
and then keep going. But so the reaction time's shorter. It's not like, I'm so free, I have no inhibition, I'm great at everything. Like, no, I'm very aware that I'm not, but I'm feeling more and more freed up to not get stuck for as long as I used to get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I sometimes wonder if, like, it's so interesting how I think, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel like you and I have kind of talked about this sort of thing before,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm so quick to like discount the things that I do that might be valuable. And even then, it's hard for me to say that are valuable. I'm like,
Yeah,
they may for someone
more valuable.
right,
Yep.
are valuable. And I sometimes wonder if like learning how to laugh at yourself almost makes it easier to like own the things that you're proud of too.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like if you're not feeling well equipped to make a mistake and like be kind to yourself about it,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens when you do something great? Because maybe you're still holding yourself to a standard that is like so abstract that like nothing is going to feel good. So I it's almost like I'm trying to learn how to feel that whole spectrum of
Yes.
like the moments where I'm like, whoops, I wasn't my best. Uh-oh, I'm so sorry. Like maybe one side of the spectrum being like, dude, how does this keep
I keep putting my hands under my legs. They're under my thighs right now. 'Cause I'm not having this. Touching things, holding things, learning how to feel the spectrum of what it, like, actually feeling when you're proud of yourself and receiving like praise that you give yourself, like you did a good job, or from others, so that you can also like, so you can fill your jar fairly. So that
yeah.
inevitably when I don't do a great job, I also want to be able to face that and not be depleted, because I know that I can do this differently. And I think that if we don't figure out like whose standard we're like exhausting ourselves over, that
Oh my
we run the risk of like a growing resentment. And again, I know it's, as I'm saying this, not all of the standards have we just like plucked, like some of them have been imposed upon us and been like, this is what it needs to look like, and it's a privilege to not have to unpack that. But it's the best of my ability, I want to learn how to figure out like what really matters to me, why it matters, for whom it matters, and to let that be the compass that directs my labor, my effort, helps me set my intention, so
God.
that the results are like mine, and that I don't get 10 years down the road and be like angry
Mm.
at, or any more angry than I'm going to need to be. I'm sure I'll be angry about other things. I don't need any more I don't need any more things to be stirred up on in that way, or stirred up in that way. But does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Oh my God. I've noticed, and let me know if this is like not in line with what you're talking about,
Yeah,
but
yeah, done.
I think it is. um yeah, I've noticed that when I am angry with somebody and I don't say anything and my anger builds,
Yes.
uh and it turns into that like I don't know, maybe this is like Scorpio shit, I don't know, but sometimes I'll be like taking a shower and I'll think about like the thing that someone's doing to make me mad. This is so scary.
This is what was intense, like this.
Like shampooing and I'm just like, oh my God. And I get so angry. And I had this like moment, it was like a couple months ago, where I realized, I was like, dude, maybe like 80% of this anger is actually you being mad at yourself because you're not expressing what you need.
Mm,
And that is on you.
mm,
That's not on them. That's your job. And then like I figured I journal it out. I was like, all right, what do I need? Like what's going on here?
yeah,
I figured out and I talked to the person really openly
yeah.
and honestly about like, hey, like this is how I've been feeling. These are the things that I need. And it's okay if we're not on the same page, but
Yeah.
I need to be responsible for my emotions and like share that with you. And like after I just like owned what was mine, the good and the stuff I need to work on,
Mhm.
so much of that anger and resentment went away because I knew that I wasn't standing in my own way anymore. It
Yeah.
was like I can be like frustrated with somebody or like wish that someone felt a certain way or like wish that they would do a certain thing, but that the anger that gets like really intense, at least for me, I'm like, oh, that's actually me being mad at myself, like, and that's why it's so deep and it's like so like
Mhm.
so when you say like I don't want to, 10 years from now like hold this like anger and resentment because I was actually doing things, you know in a way that like wasn't honoring my truth.
Yeah.
Like I feel you, like that makes sense to me. Does that make sense? Is this like
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it makes total sense. And I think I know it's so much easier said than done because those standards, or even like, I feel like it's very closely related in what you were sharing, like boundaries. Just talking to Ty about this the other day, that I saw someone use language around it, and it might just be semantics. Like sometimes the rewording of something, even though it's saying the same thing, it just can help me conceptualize what I need to do a little bit better.
channels? Yeah.
Um, but boundaries being less about like building up incredible walls or barriers or moat around myself, because for so long I was like, um I don't want to ward people out.
Mm.
Like it is
Yeah.
a treasure, like to be able to connect with people, and to connect with people in real ways requires vulnerability. So it felt contrary to me to have boundaries, because in my mind boundaries were like we're saying something really negative about someone else. And whereas there are boundaries that do communicate that, they are
True.
like, hey, you
Like you need to, and
you need, yeah, this is nah bad. But that most of the time what I think is exhausting and creates anxiety and stress is in situations either that are more abstract, when I'm looking at like the standards within the arts or music or business and stuff like that, or if it's within relationships. I think what the anxiety is, or like you being in the shower and being like frustrated, it's not that I could solve it just by doing this, but now I'm trying to practice going, Isabeau, what what boundaries must you work out? Like you're gonna have to know yourself a little bit better. So you might have to
yeah. Oh my god.
think a little bit more, be more honest with yourself, even if you think like that doesn't sound generous, or that doesn't sound like a whole person speaking. Find it, understand why you wanted to guard, protect, or nourish that part. And then your boundary is, it's not about them, it's about it's about you. It's like, what is
Yeah.
this thing about you that you need to look out for and grow up in? And for some
And
reason it's so
express.
hard for me. It's so hard for me. Like the extremes are better. It's easier to like jump fully into a metric where I'm like, whatever you say goes, and just like take all the
Yeah.
beatings and be angry, or just to separate myself absolutely and be like, out of sight, out of mind, not connected to it. I'm like, but what about that in between,
Hmm.
me existing in these spaces relationally, professionally, and just insisting on being me? Which I know it sounds like cheesy, just be me, but it's very hard to figure out what I want. I don't
Yeah.
know what I want or why I need it all the time, or why it's, or I don't know if I trust myself all the time to be, why this standard? Why is this the thing? And what if you end up being wrong? I'm like, well, then I end up being wrong. And I
Yeah.
have to like say I was wrong. I'm like, I
Yeah.
guess it's not as bad as I'm working it out to be. But the
Right.
perfectionist is like, you can't make a call until you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a long ramble. I'm not sure if that connected, but it's what came to
Oh,
mind. You're
it
talking
does.
about the shower experience.
No, well, because when you said like specifically like having to like know yourself, uh, that's what that moment was for me, was realizing like I was like, okay, dude, why are you mad? Like trying to like actually like, okay, like you feel the anger, like that's cool, whatever. Like there is just a way that our brain tells us that something is not in alignment with what we need, or what our values are. And so I was like, okay, like what's going on? And through that process I was like, oh, I am just really casting myself to the side here, and actually me putting myself first isn't me ignoring the needs of someone else.
Yeah.
Understanding what I need so that I know, so that they're like, it's like when it's you and someone else or something else or any exterior whatever, it's like if you're trying to come into alignment and agreement and like this place of like symbiosis or whatever, and you don't really understand like what you're all about, then the clarity of the whole is it's missing. And it's important, and it's not important because you're selfish, it's important because you're part of it. Like if you want to be a part of it, like you got to know what you need, and you got to know why you're doing X, Y, and Z. Easier said than done, oh my god. But like having that moment for myself where I was like, oh, what I need matters. That doesn't make me selfish. That's not saying that the person's needs don't matter, because mine do. It's not this or that, it's both. And that space in between is for listening. It's like what's mine is mine, and what's yours and yours is yours, and the space in between is where we listen. And like to figure out who I'm gonna be to show up in situations where I know my boundaries, and I know what I can give, and I know what I need to work on. Like you were saying in the very beginning of this, it does take going back to like 7-year-old us and looking at what was going on and being like, oh, because like you said, like that gets carried, like, you know, that doesn't just go away. It's like we became who we are from those things. Like it's just continuous.
We're changing.
It's profound. I just spit.
But like even digging back, like one of the things when you were saying that, I was thinking about how something I'm trying to practice more just in my head is just, do I actually like this? Whether it's like a food, I'm gonna put it in my mouth. Whether it's a food or like an interaction or a task, just things that maybe I grew up watching, like you said, assimilating to, or that were like valued in my community. Well, not as well as. It's not a desire to burn down all those things. I just want to know. I think I'm trying to find that muscle that helps me discern if I like something, and not because, oh, if I don't like this meal, I'm never eating it with someone else. I'm like, no, I'm Hawaiian. If someone makes me a meal, I will eat it with gratitude. I'm not gonna be like, I've decided I don't like this. I'm like, no, I'm gonna eat it. But I'm trying to practice on very low stakes things, what it feels like to make up my mind about something, and for myself, and run it through like people I love and trust and had so much life with, who showed me a certain way of, like, down to the foods I eat, or the shows I like, or the music I make, or the company I keep. Like a lot of those things, they're like reaffirming it and be like, oh yeah, I do. That's nice to know that I do love this. And then there's things I'm like, I don't think I do. And that's not horrible. And maybe I've changed. Because people change as they get older. Maybe this is just a taste that is evolved, or maybe I just didn't like it, but it is a new task to learn how to be like, I don't like playing board games. People are like, you don't? I'm like, I don't think I do. I mean, I'll play it because it's about who I'm with. Like, I'll play it with you and I'll enjoy it. But if you're asking me, like, Isabel, what's your favorite board game? Now I'll go, I don't like them. Please don't make me play.
Please don't make me do this.
Please don't make me do it. But if that's what you want to do, what the crap? I can't handle my hair.
It's funny that I'm about to eat this orange as we're having this this specific conversation because I'm this far into quarantine and I've been eating half an orange almost every day, and I still am not quite sure if I if I like it. Like, I know this is a generalization, but it's just, in my experience at least, very real. Where like dudes start like talking about gear, and then you're kind of like, does everyone actually know what this person's talking about? Everyone's like, oh yeah, totally, yeah, super sick. Like I use it on this, like the plug-in, like blah. And it has taken me until now to like fully realize that like most of the time, like people are just like pretending.
Yeah.
And I've always felt the pressure to be like, yeah, totally. But it has always felt like super not in alignment with like the person that I want to be, of just like, I actually like want to ask questions and be like, oh, I don't know what that is. But in that environment, it feels like so dangerous to be like, I don't know, because it's like so toxic. It's so toxic.
Yes.
And
that's probably a really scary situation to practice out this muscle I'm talking about, to be like, hey, I don't know what you just said. Would you care to explain? Could you define it?
Well, and the other thing that I've noticed within that realm too, though, is like how easy it is for people to be like, oh yeah, I don't like that. And that always seems crazy to me. I'm like, how do you just be like, yeah, I don't like it? Nah.
I'm like, really?
And I in my brain, I'm like, okay, when I realize that I don't like something that someone else does, I'm going to find all the reasons why I could understand why they like it, and I'm going to express that to them. I'm going to be like, oh, well, yeah, I like this. And instead of being like,
about you.
What was that?
It's such a beautiful thing about you. Like it's on things that are not like super, I'm just going to say it, super important. When someone's like, ugh, I don't like that. Part of me wants to be like, did you have to say that? Like, this is such like a subjective thing. And you're like, yeah, can't believe anyone would like that. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Anyone? Do you know how many people there are in the world?
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would like this.
Like, you could literally just get online and search and find at least one person.
Just one person, man.
But yeah, that confidence to speak, yeah, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, absolutely? Why are we using these words? How are you confident? How are you this confident?
How do you know? And then realizing within that, I'm like, oh, actually, maybe one of my strengths is that I'm not doing that. Like this whole time I've felt like I'm not good enough because I don't just like walk into a room and be like, hey everyone, my opinion about this is this, and hate what you're doing. You know, like, I'm like, God, do I need to be more like that? And I'm like, why don't I just like own the things that I don't know, own the things that I do know, which is so hard for some reason, and navigate the world in that way. And like through that, I hope and I have experienced like just creating more and more honest relationships, whether it's professionally or whatever, of just like, hey, like, let's just try to be real with each other instead of be like it's so exhausting. And I've gotten to a point where like when I see that go down, like now I just want to be like, hey dude, it's okay.
It's okay, man. He's like, what do you mean? You're like, I know you don't know.
I know you don't.
It's okay. I don't know either.
That's what we both don't know.
We both.
And I saw Johnny Greenwood make a mistake once.
I think that's what I was thinking of when I was talking about lower stakes things, is like, how many things am I
just like kind of going along with? You're like,
yeah. And knowing those two, that means that there's some situations now that I get to where someone's like, what do you want to eat? And I'll go, anything. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Oh
no, I don't. I'll be like to have clarity about the things that you really do want or need or like. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be so specific that people have to carry a list around to be able to like attend to me. It's like, no, it means I really, how many things I really am flexible around. So when someone's like, what about this? I'm like, oh, in this case, this, and this. Thank you. And they're like, but what about this? I'm like, anything. Yeah. Like, really? I'm like, yeah, I thought about it. I don't care.
Totally. But and then it's real.
It's real. It's not me just being like walked over. I'm like, I don't give a shit. And it feels great.
I don't care about how I'm gonna feel really soon. We can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Because there's times where you're like, I don't care, and you walk away and you're like, oh,
You're like, oh no.
I compromise myself. And on that one, I'm like, no, I really don't care.
Well, and like, yeah, totally just like owning your decisions and like
I have one question for you, and then I'll do like a little closeout.
okay.
What is one tradition you grew up with that you hope to replicate, or you hope to continue in your adult years?
Sorry, I'm like
Oh, you can take all the
reflecting on
time.
my life.
He's so beautiful. The reaction. I spit food out.
I've been spitting food this whole time. I think you're beautiful. And then we just stare.
Immediately what I wanted to do. I have so many chins when I do that. Yes.
I'm okay, so I want to just let you in on my thought process of why I'm sitting here
Yeah.
really thinking. I'm thinking about what tradition means like in my family.
Mm.
And there's a funny thing there because you know, my dad is from the Basque Country and my mom is from Mexico, and each of those backgrounds hold so much, so many traditions.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up very far away from relatives, like I mentioned before. But I also grew up with like, you know, a Mexican community and the Basque community of people who were family but like weren't blood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about those traditions and they feel so far away. It's like memories of my childhood of like, you know, going to like Basque picnics where like everyone would cook Basque food and we would just spend time together and like play like Basque card games, or you know, like there were events that like my mom would hold with, she had like these friends and they had this thing called the Wyoming Hispanic Organization, and we would have like these dances and like bands would come from Mexico to play, and it was like super cool, and it was so rich and it was so full of tradition, like so many traditions, and it was so rich and it was so long ago. And then I'm like thinking of like, well, what traditions did we have like in our household, like
Yeah.
just my family, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just us. And yeah, and I just went down like the tunnel of like thinking about like all those years. And I think the reason it's taking me so long to answer is because I'm like in this moment realizing I think I'm still learning what those traditions are, because I'm identifying in retrospect what felt normal that was actually really special,
Mm-hmm.
that I want to like hold on to and continue in my adult years. And also recognizing ways that I wish I would have been more present in those years. Think about my parents. I don't know if this is like a tradition, but it's a big part of my family. My parents, like, I'm so lucky, dude. They just wanted my sister and I to like be prepared for the world. And for my dad, that meant like learning a lot and like learning how to read and like learning math. And he would take time that I don't think he actually had because he was working like 12-hour shifts and like going to school and like teach us how to read. And my mom would like by hand make me my costume for the Nutcracker. And so I don't know if it's really like a tradition, but the way that my parents showed up,
Mm-hmm.
I want to show up that way for the people in my life, whether it's my friends or enemies even.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn how to show up the way that was just so natural for my parents, because I don't even know if they know
Mm-hmm.
how special it is.
Yeah.
Because It wasn't a Lunchable, dude. It like wasn't this like pre-packaged, convenient plastic thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like intentional as
Mm-hmm.
fuck and so full of heart. And like even though like the traditions that we took part in, uh, you know, in terms of our heritage were rich, but like I said, feel far away.
Mm-hmm.
The way that people show up is still the same. The
Yeah.
like, we're gonna make this meal together, we're gonna celebrate together, we're gonna be a community for each other because we're all far away from where our families are from, so we're gonna make family here.
Yeah.
And like that is something that I feel like we have done.
Mm-hmm.
Like La Bamba, like I feel so far away from you guys, but I also, when I met you, felt so far away from home, and it didn't take long to like cultivate
Yeah.
family. So that is what I want
That's a
to.
rich tradition.
That is a rich tradition.
Mm-hmm. I kind of talked to Luz a little bit about this last night, but like my parents' legacy, I feel like one of their strongest legacies will be the intangible tradition of like how we relate to each other. Like I have like your parents, they have a tradition of very intentional love and care for their own. And then you can broaden that and be like from your own blood, community, and like even my neighbors. But that tradition will be, that is my heritage, is to, that's beautiful. What a rich tradition your parents have given you. That's so good.
Oh man,
I love your parents for doing that.
parents too. Oh my god, did we talk about how your mom commented on one of my pictures on Instagram? I'm gonna cry.
Was it?
Can I read this to you?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
I've like never met your mom, and like she's like on my
Hot
Insta.
shot Shelly.
Because it was this photo
Mhm.
from, will it focus at all? From LA.
That was the last show. Damn.
Last one, and we were there together. Your mom says, and this was like months later. This was 12 weeks ago. She says, she starts out, "You don't know me, but to thank you for I just wanted to thank you for loving kindness on my daughter. From the pictures, she is at ease, and I know what it takes for her to be in that space." Sorry, I'm like, my eyes are like glazing over. I can't read. I'm gonna start over. "You don't know me, but I just wanted to thank you for loving kindness on my daughter. From the pictures, she is at ease, and I know what it takes for her to be in that place, that space. Mahalo." And like, I read that message, and I was like, oh my god, I see so much of Isabeau in this message. Like this intentional, like, I know you don't know me, but I'm just gonna say this. Like that is like the first thing I think I noticed about you was this like it's like guitar leg. It's like we don't know each other, but like I'm gonna love on you. And like I just felt that from your mom, and I was like, this is crazy. I've like never even met your mom, and I just felt like so. Oh.
That like affirms, I think you, thank you for that. That affirms something that's in me that I feel like growing up when people looked out for my family or I felt I felt it through them. So there's probably like a lot of protective stuff in there that's not completely from a whole place because there's this feeling like it's us against the world.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
which maybe at
Come
times,
home before
yeah,
dark.
get out before dark. No one else is looking out for you.
Yeah, dude.
But like I'm really feeling that, like seeing people look out for my siblings or my nephews and nieces or my friends and really here's something loving that part of me that actually feels a complete joy about it. Like it's not corrupted by like jealousy or fear of losing them myself or like missing out. It's like they're seeing them for me in ways I can't be there in person or whatever the case. And there's like this relief of like, you see it too. Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, good.
Good. Like seeing someone love like your dude looking out for you, and it makes me go, good,
Yeah.
good. That makes me happy. That makes me very happy. That was a beautiful answer. That could be the whole interview. Could be how you answered that last question. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna find. I don't know how I close these out, but
I love this.
Julia, I love you so much. It makes so much sense that you're my first home lunch virtual date. Thank you for spending time with me, as much time as you have.
Thank you for inviting me. This.
You
How did
eat
you
your
do on your
food?
meal? I ate almost every. I'm still learning whether I want to eat oranges.
Weird 3 pieces. I don't know why those are the remainder.
It's
And
good.
then it's funny, your fruits, what's remaining. I'm gonna pick at this. I was worried that this was gonna get my teeth.
That's well, yeah, because I was trying to eat this with a fork, and then I was like, "That's hard." And then I bit into
Flip
one
it.
of them, and I was like, "This is all in my teeth." This is my favorite meal I've had in months.
Mine too. Mine too. I love
Okay.
you.
I love you too.
I'll
I will
talk to
see
you
you.
soon.
Okay.
Bye, Julia. This is gross. I'm sorry.
I love this. Can I just show you what it looks like outside of my window? It's open right now.
Is it dark?
It's like a fucking yeah. It's time to go home. Look, I'm eating breakfast.
Oh my gosh. I'm so
Oh, this is the best. I just like realized like maybe we should probably
your butt. Watch it.
decide
This is my mom's favorite part. Did I something to my teeth?
Yes. I really do this.
She's totally my mom. And you can guess I love my mom. I wait for it because now she knows. It's not like she doesn't know that we know. But yeah, and she'll do it like the way you're doing. She'll just turn around and, hey, hun,
Has it ever happened where she's not joking and it's real?
probably.
You know what? That's genius though, because then when it happens,
No,
oh, it's so smart.
you're the best. And she's like, yeah. Welcome.
I wish you could see what I'm doing right now.
And me, I wish you could see me. I'm practicing. Welcome.
Oh yeah, practice.
Welcome to Home Lunch. It's a bite-sized interview where I get to have virtual lunch dates with my friends. Nope, not gonna do it like that. I hate that.